Welcome back to the Commander Experience podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jacob. Today we're going to talk about, let's say, what we want to see in the future or what we would add to the game if we had some say in that.
Let's break it down.
So this year is the first year where we have more Universes Beyond than we have normal sets. So 4 Universes Beyond and 3 normal, if you want to call it that. So just to go real quickly through the sets we're going to see this year, we have Lorwyn, and we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Secrets of Strixhaven, and then Marvel Superheroes. Then we have The Hobbit and Reality Fracture, and end of the year we have Star Trek. So some pretty big IPs.
Yeah, and before we talk about the sets themselves and what we look forward to, maybe we should just quick talk about the elephant in the room regarding Universes Beyond and where we stand on the whole subject. Because 4 versus 3 seems like a lot when we talk Magic, because it seems like for every year we get that we move further and further away from the true Magic sets. So where do you stand? Is that something that matters for you, or what do you think?
I won't say I'm not directly against any of the Universes Beyond stuff, but I would hope to have it the other way around, where there was a bit more Magic. But I will say that probably the set I'm looking most forward to is not a Magic set, so I guess I don't really have that big of a gripe with any of it. I just want good Magic cards.
And now I'm really curious to know what you're looking most forward to of the sets. But before we talk about that, I can say the same thing. I think it's more important to me that Magic is fun to play and it keeps me engaged with cool new designs. To be honest, when I'm playing Magic, I never get to stop in the middle of the game and say, wow, these Magic IP cards is really cool, or something like that. I barely even notice what's on the card. When you're playing a game, you're just slinging spells and having fun. So I don't have any big feelings attached to it, to be honest. I just love the game itself, and I don't have any big feelings surrounding IPs, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither. I think I have, like, as far as I can see, if I look at Reddit, I have kind of the popular opinion that some of the sets just feel odd, like Spider-Man. That feels very far attached from Magic, where I thought that Avatar was pretty cool, and I've also seen Avatar, so I have some bias there as well. But yeah, it seems like there is some difference to what I like, but that's the same with Magic sets, so it's maybe not that surprising.
And of course, there are some sets that seems more Magic-like. I mean, Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, and those IPs are sort of similar to the Magic universe, I think. More fantasy-driven, maybe even Warhammer 40k to some extent.
Yeah, which is interesting, because Warhammer 40k is kind of far removed from Magic. It's in the future, but I don't know. I thought it fit pretty well, so I'm not sure what it really is that makes it a good Universes Beyond.
I think 40k somehow is the perfect balance between fantasy and sci-fi in some way.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just a feeling. But let's jump into to the deep end here, and what are the sets and what do you expect from them going into 2026?
Yeah, I will say this year it's actually pretty hard. I have multiple sets which I find very cool. The one I'm looking most forward to is The Hobbit, and I really love Lord of the Rings in general, and I really love the last set. Yeah, I just look forward to it. I have seen all the movies, read all the books, more than once probably. So that's a lot of rose-tinted glasses as well. But I will say that Lorwyn and Reality Fracture does also really excite me, and I'm really excited to see what Reality Fracture is. I hope, and I have no clue I hope it's some time spiral stuff where they try to go wild again. I really hope that's what it is, but yeah. The Hobbit is definitely the set I'm looking most forward to. I love the last set and hope they do it again.
I can't help to think, and that was my first thought when I saw the timeline and the reveal of the sets. My first idea with Reality Fracture was kind of the color pie as we know it in Magic, that they're going to experiment with that a little bit because that would fracture our Magic reality in some way. So that was just my first thought, and it might have nothing to do with that. But I think that could be cool that they were playing with the color pie in some way, because we've always said said that red and white need some sort of help
Yeah.
regarding some of the things that especially blue and green have access to. So this would be a good excuse to give red and white some of those cards. But regarding the set I'm looking most forward to, and this is by no means the set I think gonna be the most successful or anything like that, because I do think that will be Lorwyn and The Hobbit, to be honest. But I'm looking forward to Star Trek, and that's just because I've been raised on Star Trek, watching Next Generation through the 90s. I even had the whole Star Trek Voyager on VHS imported from UK to Denmark because it wasn't released in Denmark anywhere. So I imported one tape at the time every month until I had all 7 seasons. So that was quite a project. But yeah, and I just think there's so many cool characters that are just so obvious as commanders, like the Borg Queen and Q, and there's just so many funny characters where you could really explore what commanders could be. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Star Trek, and I do think that spacecraft will come back. So making a Voyager commander, I mean, if that comes, I'm building Voyager. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine if you've seen a lot of Star Trek, that would be very cool.
Anyway, that was just a quick walkthrough on the sets we come to expect in 2026. Just real quick, I do find myself going back to a lot of cards where I found out it's Strixhaven cards. I never saw that as a big set back in the day, but I do find myself going back to cards that are from Strixhaven. So for me at least, it was sort of an under the radar kind of set back then, and if they could follow that up with the Secrets of Strixhaven, I think that could actually be a secret gem of some sort.
Definitely. I thought that the old Strixhaven was very cool, and as you say, keep finding good cards from there, so I'm also looking forward to that. And that's also why I'm kind of excited for this year. I haven't really bought any sealed product this year, or last year, rather. But I'm pretty sure I will at least buy some of The Hobbit. And let's see, Lorwyn and Reality Fracture will probably lure me in as well. So I haven't had that feeling for a long time. So
yeah. But let's move on to talk a little bit about some brainstorming or whatever you want to call it. If we could somehow talk to Wizards of the Coast and make suggestions about what we think would be cool adding to the world of Magic. What would it then be? One of the biggest changes I would like to make to the game. Oh, not a change, an addition, or whatever you want to call it. I want some mechanics and cards introduced that can interact with Planeswalkers. I would like to make Planeswalkers great again somehow. And we see all sort of strategies where you get all sort of tools for supporting those strategies, but you don't get that many tools for Planeswalkers. You have old cards like the Chain Veil that goes infinite with Teferi, but we haven't seen that many cards since then. We have had a few. We had the Auras where they got new abilities, and that was sort of a step in the direction I was thinking about. But I would also go even further and maybe have some mana sinks or something like that, where if you could get infinite mana that you usually use to activate other win cards anyway, you could sort of maybe add counters to a Planeswalker and ultimate it or something like that. I would also like something like Born Upon a Wind for Planeswalkers, where maybe you can cast a card that says you can activate any given ability on a Planeswalker instant speed. You already have the Teferi, where you can activate it on your opponent's turn. I would like more like that in that direction. Maybe even turn down the power level on printing new Planeswalkers, but where you have the ability to activate them on your opponent's turn. I think that's a nice mechanic because they're so hard to defend, and then most of them are not worth their while right now. So I would like to see them trying to make Planeswalkers great again. I really think it's a nice addition, or whatever you want to call it, to Commander.
Yeah, I really wish that makes sense. I really wish they had a lot more tools as well. Like even something. Now when we play Bracket 4, my brain is also thinking, of course, powerful cards. So also thinking like, could we have a 1-mana thing that just says you can activate the top ability of your Planeswalker on extra time? So make it more specific, so you can make the mana cheaper, so you can actually try to play it in more powerful strategies without, making it too powerful. I hope they do something like that, because it's always kind of scary to make it be able to ultimate twice or give it fast counters. So maybe trying to activate the top ability more, or do something like that could help.
And you have a Karth deck, so they already tried to experiment in some way with the Planeswalker and what they could be. And I do think that it's dangerous territory just to put in permanence where you can activate abilities several times and maybe instant speed. But I mean, you're already in dangerous territory when you have these doublers where you can double the counters on your Planeswalkers, and they already exist. So playing like Liliana and double the counters and ultimate her right away is already a possibility. So I mean,
it is.
How dangerous can you really make it, because you're sort of already there? So I'm not that worried regarding making, let's say, a 3-mana, 4-mana artifact that has a activated ability that you can use as a mana sink if you get infinite mana to add loyalty counters to all your Planeswalkers. And I do sort of miss having the possibility of making a Super Friends deck in Bracket 4, because right now it's just not possible.
I hope they do it in the future. I love Karth, and that's kind of too slow at this point, but it's really fun to play. So my first one here is, I don't know if we call it boring, but I think it's very necessary, because it is basically, I have the top subject is better interaction, but it's a bit deeper than that, because I don't really want more Fierce Guardianships and Force of Wills. I want more what's called specific, that is can be used for defense, but can be used for only for stopping other people, and then because then you can make them even cheaper mana cost and ability, or the power level even higher on those cards. Because I think we joke about it when we play all our low rate games. So the first game we play is our worst decks. There's no blue. And I think that it is the interaction that the other colors need a lot. So stuff like Pyro Blast and Red Elemental Blast, I know they kind of work in defense, but Swords to Plowshare, stuff like that. More cards that are very aggressively costed, but more specific, that can be used to stop people winning. Also because the format is speeding up, so we need more tools to stop people from winning, so we can have a bit longer games. Not too long, but yeah.
Did you have any card design, specific card design in mind? Or is it just more Swords to Plowshares?
On top of mind, I was thinking that, I don't know which color, but let's say it could be a removal spell that you can use on a permanent that also counters an ETB effect. So, because that's something we talked about, why counter spells are so powerful. So maybe have one set that says remove creature that entered this turn and counter one ability on the stack. Then you can both get the rule, and they should cost 1 mana. I don't think that would be too powerful at all. Something like that. So basically just better interaction. And I know people don't like it, but also probably would need more. I don't know if it had to be free, but at least more 1 mana, because we see that our game speeding up. So in my mind, I'm kind of drawing the correlation between Legacy and Vintage, and they play for Force of Will and all this to try and stop people from winning instantly. And I think we kind of need some of that in Commander at this point, because at this point, the game is just speeding up. They are printing more and more things that make the decks more powerful and more consistent, and not enough, in my take at least, that stops all this consistency and speed that we are getting.
To add on what you're saying, love to see more cards that are maybe costed just a little bit more, but then also have the cantrip effect on it, because especially in Commander, the one casting, let's say, the counter spell and the one having the spell countered are the two people that loses at the table, and the two passive players are winning from that exchange. So we have cards like Arcane Denial that are sort of trying to circumvent that, but I do think it's too powerful to give your opponents 2 cards. But if you have, like, let's say, a negate, but with a cantrip on it, I do think that's okay. I don't think that's too powerful that you're replacing the card, so you're not getting punished for stopping the player trying to win. I don't know if that's too powerful, and then that leads to too much interaction. Maybe that will happen. I don't know, but I would love to see more cantrip interaction where the card replaces itself.
Yeah, that could be a solution. Yeah, my thought is basically just, I feel like the last couple of years they had like made a mountain of cards that speed up the game, and such a little amount of cards that actually try to stop all this power that we have gotten.
We talked a lot about Stifle, the two of us, because I love to run it earlier. I don't anymore, but I still have multiple copies in my folder. But we talked about, but what if they had Stifle with a cantrip on it?
Yeah.
It changes the whole scene regarding if it's good or not. It's just...
Yeah, exactly.
You can always just use it to draw a card.
Yeah. I think that would be great. I not even overpowered. As I said before, I think Stifle should be 0 mana, and that would be fine as well.
We also talked about that instead of printing Fierce Guardianship, that should have been a Stifle effect, in my opinion, and not a counter spell. I think that would have been more balanced. But 0 mana Stifles is definitely something I would love to see. There are more and more great effects, and it's just too hard to put cards like Stifle in your deck because most of the time you don't have them when you need them, or you don't need them at all. Having them at the right time, at the right price, everything like that is like 10% of the game at most. So you need the cards to do more or replace themselves, I think. Anyway, my second one is sort of the same. I would just love to see sorceries getting better, meaning that we do have a lot of powerful sorceries, but I do think that they are also 9 out of 10 times, if not even more, too heavily costed. And I think we've reached a modern world of Magic where we can let a little bit of the Magic past behind us and say that, especially when we're talking Commander, of course, I think this is the case that when you play Bracket 3 and Bracket 4, you get punished a lot for playing sorcery speed. And I do think that, one, I would love to see them move more away from sorcery speed magic and more into supporting instant speed magic. So what I would love is that either you print more instant speed spells and make them cost a little bit more, or you have the sorcery speed spells that are just as good, but are then costing a little bit less. There's just such a big gap of power that I think it's time that if you make sorcery or sorcery speed spells, that they're more impactful, that they do more. We have, let's take a card like Druid of Purification. Why is that 4 mana? Why? I will never understand it. It's so much mana. And the whole table are enjoying you spending 4 mana and your whole turn casting this spell. So it's just like such a setback. And I'm not saying the card is not good in certain situations and stuff like that. It's just an example of a card that, yes, it does a lot, but it's also taking up your whole turn most of the time. And I played this card to begin with when it came out, and it was always either stuck in hand or my whole turn, and I just lost that game.
Yeah, that's one of those cards where I really love the design. I wish it was less mana, as you said. Also because it also helps your opponent, and I think that since they have started printing stuff specifically for Commander, they should really also look into, like, okay, if this also helps your opponent, it could be cheaper in mana cost, and it should be cheaper.
Yeah. A card, when talking about Druid of Purification, there's the white sorcery one, Dismantling Wave, I think it's called, where it's 2 and 1 white, and you get to choose, I think it's both an artifact or enchantment from each of your opponents, and they sacrifice that enchantment or artifact, or that gets destroyed, I can't remember. But if that was instant speed, that would be more than okay for me that it was 3 mana. Being sorcery speed, I think that should be 2 mana. And then you could argue that that's a lot of power for only 2 mana. Yes, but you also have to cast it sorcery speed. You're not ramping, you're not drawing cards, you're not doing anything. Most of the time you're doing at least one of your opponents a favor, if not 2. So I do think it should be cheaper cost if it's sorcery speed, but I'm okay with Dismantling Wave if it was an instant, that it would remain at 3 mana.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good card. So that could be a good idea. And also, as you said earlier, that moving towards more instant speed, I know there is a lot of instant speed already, but Magic's like thing that is different from all the other games is all the instant speed stuff going on. So, and that's also what we a lot of time begin laughing when we have a stack with 5 to 10 spells on it. That's very fun for us, at least. So more of that could be cool.
The whole reason I got into Magic, I was playing Hearthstone online, and the whole reason I found Magic was I just love the concept of you having the chance of casting spells on your opponent's turn. I mean, that's the whole game for me, interacting with your opponents. Otherwise, it's just each of us sitting there and playing solitaire, which happens in other brackets. And if people like that, more power to them. But that's not the kind of Magic I want to play. I want to have my opponents try and stop me, and I want to have the chance to stop my opponents. I don't want to be playing sorcery speed Magic unless it's ramp or playing my commander or something like that. I'm not advocating for more flash creatures. I want to make that clear. I'm just advocating for the price cost of sorcery versus instants. We see so powerful instants doing so much work, and then we have sorcery spells that does half the work and cost twice as much. And I just think that's the balance they have to work on just a little bit.
Oh, well, on that note, I have an interesting take. It's kind of in the same vein, actually, my next one, where you kind of want to make something more powerful if it's sorcery speed. But this is more specifically on stacks pieces. If you haven't noticed in our talks, I like stacks, and I think it's good for the game to some degree. And it's kind of the same before, where I said I want the game to be slowed down, and I enjoy people interacting with me, and that's what stacks also does. So like my next idea, or what I would like to see, is having cheaper versions of already good stacks pieces that goes away from modern stacks pieces, always says, or most of the time says opponent. And I really enjoyed the old days where the stacks pieces hit everyone. So I would love to see let's say an opposition agent that costs 1 mana and says all players and wasn't flash speed as well. I think that would be fine. It could also be a Draneth that didn't say opponent and cost 1 mana. So stuff like that. So basically taking already good cards or decent cards and lowering the mana cost and giving them some downsides and having them affect all players. I think stack speeds that affect all players is the most fun. Also, have you build decks in funky ways to make it work.
Yeah, I think personally, and this is just personal opinion, but I do think that Draneth is pushing it a bit too far. I like the card design collective more, where every person at the table is affected by it, and you sort of, as the player playing the card, have the chance to build around it. But just having a card that shuts down so much as Draneth does is a bit too much for me. But I do agree, and I especially like the instant idea. I tried out the Disruptor Flute myself because it had flash. Doesn't do that much work, Disruptor Flute, even with flash, because you don't have the chance of casting it in response to where you want it to work. You have to cast it beforehand anyway. But I like the card design, and I wish that there would be more like that, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think they're a bit afraid of stacks, and I know why, because a lot of more casual players don't like it. But yeah, I don't think it will be too much disruption to print more of it, because I think that like the rule 0 kind of fixes it. I haven't played a lot of low bracket stuff, but I can't imagine them having opposition agents and Draneth running around everywhere. I think most of that is just, please don't play that.
I've always found it to be true that rule 0 fixed most of the games. I don't really think we need the bracket system. I didn't need the power level that much beforehand. I mean, players wanting to break the game or pot stomp or whatever you want to call it are always going to do that no matter what. So, I mean, I never saw an Armageddon or something like that when I started playing. So I don't think it's necessary. And as you say, with stacks, I just think that you sort of find the people that enjoy playing those cards, and us playing in a private pod, it's easy for us to set the rules and limitations on what we think the game should look like. And in our case, it's more or less anything goes, and you play the kind of Magic that you think are fun, and then it's up to me to stop you. So I like that kind of Magic. I like the kind of Magic where if you have to compare it with rock, paper, scissors, it's not fun for me if I'm saying that you can't play rock because I find that boring, and then I'm choosing scissors all the time and just say you can't play rock, because I've been in those games where people don't like board wipes and then they're playing a creature heavy deck. So for my third and last one, I'm having a little bit of what you talked about earlier regarding the interaction part. Mine is just specifically related to board wipes. And I think we already talked this to death in a couple of the early episodes, but I really love the card design on Avatar's Wrath. So the what I would love to see in 2026 and going forward is more board wipes that are flexible in Commander, where you don't lose as much momentum as you do casting a Wrath of God. So either a card design like Avatar's Wrath, or like I talked about earlier, maybe make some of the board wipes cost more and then be instant speed. You already have blue cards like Evacuation, that is a 5-mana instant that bounces all creatures on the battlefield. And I do think that sort of card space should be explored a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that this is actually one of the takes where I'm pretty sure they will do what you're saying. I think Avatar's Wrath is like the first of many we're going to see that does similar things. Not like the same as that card, but board wipes with upside, if you want to say that. I think that we will see a lot of that the coming years, because I think they know that the board wipes are not good enough anymore.
And they've already experimented with this card design in some way. We've seen board wipes where it only destroyed all tapped creatures, or it only destroyed creatures with no counters on it, stuff like that. I just think it's too specific to be playing unless you're playing that counters deck or that tap untap deck. I run that in my Hilda deck, so I both have the counters and I have the tap untap board wipes in it. But that's just too specific in my opinion, and we need more board wipes that are more generically good. I don't have that much more to say regarding that, but one thing I could say is that I can sort of see that if they're building too much board wipes like Avatar's Wrath, are we then going into a meta where it's all board wipes? And I don't think that game would be fun for anyone. So that would be the downside. But right now, I just don't think we have quite enough board wipes that are worth to be played. So a few more would be nice.
And like maybe a little bit of opposing opinion to yours. Like I feel like if they keep printing the very specific ones, at some point there will be so many that every deck kind of have a couple of good ones they can play. But that will take some time. But yeah.
That could also be a solution.
Yeah, my last one is not so much card design that we have all talked about. It's more that I think we have mentioned a bit on the podcast, but I hope that the Commander, I don't know what they're called now, RC group, that they get some time to not only review cards, but also maybe look into, like, in general rules. Now they have looked into a bit to hybrid, but one of the topics we have talked about is I hope they get time to look into something like the whole draw a card when you start. I hope they will look into more statistics and look into all of the online games and use that data to see if there are some unbalances in the game that could be fixed, like starting player drawing cards and the last player having less chance of winning. So I don't know if people would like that, but I think it would be kind of cool to like try to balance the game. I know people before have talked about life totals being lower or higher, depending on which camp you're in. I don't think they should change the game totally, but maybe try to balance out some of the unbalances, if there is any.
Yeah, and I very much agreed with this. We just made our statistics episode, and the gap is just too big right now. So I've been playing chess most of my life since I was like 6 years old, something like that. So I've always been accustomed to a game where white have the advantage because they're starting the game. But it's so minor. It's there, but it's still so minor. And that's just not the case in Commander. It's way too big. It's way too big.
Definitely.
We've seen it in cEDH and us tracking the statistics in our private pod. We've noticed this as well. There's just way too big a gap from being 1 or 2 to being 3rd or 4th. So I agree. I would like to see them trying to fix some of those stuff. It's a casual game, yes, but losing like 10% just by sitting down is not balanced enough for me.
No, it could be a bit better. And I think it's also kind of easily fixable. It will convolute the game a bit, and that's probably why it haven't been done. But I think it might be worth it. At least look into it. And if they have just communicate they already have looked into it, that would be more than enough for me.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Before closing up, I know none of us mentioned this one, but I know we have talked a lot about this also in private, that we would love to see more tutor hate. in general.
Yeah.
We just saw Wan Shi Tong, Librarian, from the Avatar set, and I do hope that we see more of those kind of cards. Not necessarily where you draw cards, but just tutor hate in general. We have Opposition Agent that is the big baddie. Maybe not that powerful. Maybe it's okay to print something less powerful than Opposition Agents, but some sort of thing that either hinders your opponents in some way or rewarding you when they search their library. I love the card design with the Archivist of Ogma and Wan Shi Tong, where you tutoring is giving your opponents an advantage and they are drawing cards, sort of like a heuristic study, if you will, for tutoring. I do like that card design.
Yeah, same. And also maybe I don't need it to be hate, but also draw hate, because at this point we draw so many cards, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know what it should be, because I think straight up just saying you can't draw cards like Narset is not the way to go. But I'm also a bit afraid of the whole Wan Shi Tong thing going on, where okay, now we get tutor hate, but now we draw even more cards. So now, yeah, I don't know if that's the solution either. So
we can always unban Hull Breacher, right?
Yeah, that was a fair card.
Maybe bring him back in a new design where it's, I don't know, clue tokens or something like that instead of treasure tokens. Maybe that was a bit much.
That was probably a bit too much. But yeah.
But replacement effects, I could see that happening.
Yeah. I could also see a world where it kind of helps it stops tutors, but doesn't give you an upside or helps your opponent in some other way. And that in that way they can make it cheaper. Because that's one of the things I don't like about Opposition Agent. It comes in a bit too late. But yeah, there's many ideas. And if they could make it so it doesn't disrupt fetch lanes as well, because I think that's some of the feels bad that there is in more casual games. But hey, now I can ramp. If there's a way to do so it doesn't hit that stuff, that would be great as well.
Yeah, but you already have Blood Moon and cards like that that are sort of hitting your fetch lanes anyway, so
doesn't really matter now, break it. But
if I had to choose, I would rather have Opposition Agent in the game than Blood Moon. So I do think that Opposition Agent does a lot more work.
Yeah, definitely. But I totally agree.
Yeah. That was our hopes and dreams for Magic, not only in 2026, but in general. As we all know, the cards have already been decided, what kind of design they are on the cards for the foreseeable future. So these ideas and suggestions are going into the wishing well somewhere, I guess. And we're projecting out ideas and hoping that Wizards will grab them and run with them. Anyway, what kind of card design do you want to see in the near future? And what is the set in 2026 that you're looking forward to the most? Share it in the comments. Also, as always, we would more than love to have you on our Discord server, asking questions, sharing deck ideas, and talking Magic in general. So come visit.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone.
See you in the next one.